The Amazing Race season 36 continued its journey, part two of the mega leg in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And unfortunately, this time around, it was father-daughter duo Chris and Mary who were last to the pit stop. They join me now. Guys, so excited to speak with you. How are things?
Good.
Hi,
So
thank
excited to
you.
be
Good to
here,
be here.
despite the circumstances.
Even
Yeah,
second
yeah.
last, we're still happy to be here.
Hey, exactly. It is what it is, right? So let me just start with this, you guys. Why did you initially want to be on the race, or maybe what sparked your interest with the show?
Yeah, so my mom was a big fan, so we grew up watching it, and then we never really had plans to audition. It just one day I saw like a casting call. It was like, "Hey, last chance to apply. Like, applications are closing soon." So I said, "Let's go home. Like, let's record, an audition tape." So we sat down for 20 minutes, like cut it down to 3, submitted it, and I was like, "Well, that sucks. Like, there's
Yeah, we
no
just
way we're getting a call
in our
back."
little apartment and our little couch, which is right behind us here. We just
Right?
shot the breeze for 20 minutes, put 3 minutes in, sent it in, joking around. Hey, did Hollywood call you? Oh, did they call you? And sure enough, a couple of days later, we got a casting call. They said, "Hey, we've been trying to call you guys.
Yeah.
You interested in being on the show?"
And it's crazy because we only applied once. And so we kept like getting through each hurdle and we're like, whoa, wait, like this is actually happening. Like we're
Yeah,
actually
the
in the running to be on the Amazing Race.
we had
Like
to
it was
meet our
crazy.
casting person and then the casting director and
Yeah.
CBS,
And
and
just like jumping all the
we
hurdles.
kept making it, and we just couldn't believe it.
And here you are. You were on the show. You were part of the cast, which
On
is
the
Yeah.
show,
incredible.
we might have been second to last, but we're just thrilled to be on the show
Really
again.
Yeah,
happy to be
yeah.
on that starting mat.
Yeah,
Just
which that leads me to ask, I've always been curious to know, like, what is it like watching at home versus actually like doing the race in real life and being on the show?
surreal. It's surreal, and even watching it at home is surreal, but actually being at the start and having
It's
Phil as
crazy.
close as you are right there is like, I
Yeah.
can't believe
Like
this.
your adrenaline is pumping, like your hands are shaking, your heart is racing. You're like, wait, this is like really, we're about to start racing. And I think like when Phil says go, like you're going, like that's it. The teams are booking it.
The
Like you're like,
world is waiting. The world is waiting. And I have
yeah,
to say this about Phil. He is the nicest guy you'd want to meet. He is nicer in person than he is even on TV. The most
Oh,
personable guy, never rushes you, makes you feel welcome.
yeah.
I can't say enough about Phil. And it was just such a pleasure to meet him.
It's also a heck
yeah.
of a lot more chaotic when you're racing than sitting on like your couch with your feet up and some like popcorn and snacks.
Yeah, it's
And
a lot
like
easier.
it's like a whirlwind. Like you're like you see other teams running and you're like, should we be running? And it's just like you feel like it has to be go, go, go. When really I would recommend like
And,
taking a breather and like getting your surroundings
and
set.
I've watched other people. I'm like, oh, that was easy. You couldn't do that, or why are you quitting? But a whole new respect for everybody.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lot. You're away from your element. You're tired. You're thirsty. It's a long day, and I have total respect for anybody that didn't do as well as they thought they should have done.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, obviously it's easy to judge from the couch at home. And I have to imagine too that, like once you guys are out, that you're probably like, was that a dream? Was this real that we just experienced? Like I feel like you're just like questioning if any of it was real.
We
Things
still feel like
still
that.
feel
Yeah.
like we had a big gap in time, a year and a half about it. It was October of 2022.
Yeah.
We still cannot go a day without lighting up and just talking about it and remembering it.
I
And
think in the episode last night, my dad goes, I need to pinch her.
uh,
And I'm like, you've done that since. Like, we
right.
still like have to
We
pinch
still
ourselves
like
to
kind of
like,
feel like did this really happen?
yeah, it's
Like
really
just
bizarre.
like the experience, we're just regular people here in Massachusetts, and to be in California and Burbank and on the private jet and Puerto
Sure.
Vallarta and Phil, and it was just
Yeah.
crazy.
Like he said, like we're just regular Joe Schmoes. And I'm like, if you don't try, you're already counting yourself out. So like no matter whether it's applying for the Amazing Race or like whatever it might be, like just go for it. Like you just
Mhm.
never know what's gonna happen or like transpire from like giving things a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I've always said about the Amazing Race, I really feel like it's anyone's game because there's no way to have a leg up. And so that also leads me to ask, like, did you guys have any form of preparation that you did before going on the show that you're like, oh, this might be helpful to know?
We
Yeah.
did flashcards for country flags. I can pretty much tell you any one of the 170 flags. Mary is a very good athlete. I do a lot of weightlifting. I didn't do as much cardio as I wish I had.
Mhm.
We had a pretty short time
We did
between
stick shift driving.
shift driving.
And I think just like having like him being my dad, like we have such good communication within one another. Like we know when to step in when someone needs help or like kind of can like read on each other's faces what they're feeling or thinking. And so I think that was like one of our strengths going
I
in.
mean, I see so many challenges on the show where they're on their knees, hands and knees, crawling and picking up things. We brought knee pads with us. You know, we were trying to be prepared. We didn't get to that point, but if we had to do something on our hands and knees, we were ready. So, and the funny thing is, they don't tell you what to bring ever. You don't know where you're going. We thought maybe they didn't tell you nothing. So, I mean, we
Yeah.
didn't. We just I don't know why we had this weird inkling that we might be going to Antarctica.
Well, you did.
Well, so I've got gloves and there we are in Puerto Vallarta. So I mean, the backpack is really brings you down. It's I would say if you're going to go on the show, bring as little as possible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you got to be prepared. That's really interesting. They don't let you know that. So,
Oh,
right. So, as we've kind of hinted, discussed here, you guys were unfortunately eliminated. So, walk me through that last leg that you guys experienced on the show and kind of where do you think maybe things went wrong for you?
Yeah, so well, going back to that first, like we really wasted a lot of time with wrong directions and like not having the proper information to get to the horses. And so thankfully it was a blessing in disguise that we didn't have to do the physical task. But going into that second leg, our directions were on point. Like we knew exactly where we needed to go. We never missed a turn, never had to ask for directions on our way there. And when we got there, we're like, okay, well, we just tried to do a physical task and like clearly we're running out of gas. Like let's do the mental, option. And then that was impossible. So we ended up doing balloons. And so I think if we hadn't gassed ourselves that first leg, like our directions, the second leg were like just so on point. And you see some of those teams getting lost. And if we had had that stamina, I think we could have like made it another leg. But of course, hindsight is 2020.
I think I gave it all. A lot of what I had getting to that first pit stop. We were so excited, running and sweating, and there we were. We knew we weren't last. And then he says, "You know what? It's a keep on racing." Oh, kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have
that's got to be pretty daunting. Yeah. Well, and I like Mary that you brought up that you felt like navigation was like kind of a strong suit of yours because we definitely see in the second episode that like all the teams are struggling with navigation. No one could figure out the different bridges. So I'm curious, was the bridge situation and kind of figuring out where to go in that second half in Puerto Vallarta as
particularly,
confusing as it came off on TV?
yeah, it is a little
Yeah.
bit.
So when you're on the beach, if you go straight down the beach, there's a bridge. And so a lot of people were like, oh, this is Iguana Bridge, but it was like over like south or north of like wherever that was. And so we at the start of the second leg, we're like, we need to get a map and we need to get clear directions all the way there. So we had like run across the street, gone to like a visitor center, got a map, got the directions, and then made our way to Iguana
And
Bridge.
then even when you get to the top of the bridge, you can go right or left. So we got a
Yeah.
little bit screwed up because we went right and we lost some time
For like a
there.
second. Yeah, but we had really gotten our directions like in check. And I think it's so important because you're like, oh, on the Amazing Race, like quicker is better. And the faster you are, the better. But like if you're running in the wrong direction, like that's not gonna help you. And so
You
you have to
gotta
like take a breather and like figure out where you're
you've
going.
got to conserve your steps. That's the
Yeah.
main thing. It's better to that was the killer for me was just too much mileage. Our cameraman was gauging it. I think he said we did about 8 miles of walking that day, and with the backpacks and the heat, it was just
Yeah.
it was a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So it's real life. You're really out there running around doing the thing, trying to find all the places.
Running
Yeah,
by
that's
other
incredible.
people, and everybody's discombobulated and sweating,
I
and
know, and
Yeah.
everybody else is running, and I'm like, should we be running? Like,
balloons and
Yeah, like what is the best yeah, that would be really interesting to try and figure out when you're actually in the heat of the moment. Now, obviously, when everyone comes on the show, obviously everyone's goal is to win. But I'm curious, how far did you guys actually think you would make it? Or like maybe what was your goal if not winning?
I'm a very optimistic person. So I remember being in the hotel room and being like, we have a 1 in 13 chance of winning $1 million. Like, I was like, we can do it. Like, I was so gung ho. And then you start to like look at the other teams, and
think
my dad has a little slip at the beginning. And I'm like, like, maybe let's like enjoy the
Well,
process in case we're not here
I mean, I
forever.
think once we were on the beach and got to see all the teams, I mean, there's ex-NFL player, active
Yeah.
military, active women firefighters, surfer brother dudes.
We're very fit.
I'm twice as old as most. Then I was kind of like, I'd like to win 1 million, but I think we should just have a good time.
But I think too is like neither of us are quitters, and we knew that we were gonna give it our all. And even though our 100% might not be the same as the military guys or the women firefighters, like we were gonna give it everything that we had. Like we were never gonna quit. We were never gonna lay down and die. Like we wanted to make sure that we were pushing as much as we could, whatever that may be. And in that second leg, like he says, I'm not gonna quit. And I'm like, I just wanted to make sure he was okay, but we didn't want to quit. We didn't want him to be medevac. We didn't want Phil to come meet us. And we're like, we're gonna keep pushing until the job is done, even if it's ugly and messy and slow.
Yeah, I think on the
Mhm.
second leg, at some point, probably particularly on the bridge there, our goal was just to make it to the second pit
Mhm.
Sure.
stop, even if we were last place.
Yeah.
We wanted to make it. We wanted to make it on our own feet and make it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we
well, it's a great attitude to have, and I feel like that's how you have to think if you're going and $1 million is on the line, you have to think that you're going to win.
Yeah.
Something else I'm kind of curious to know, because editing is always fun watching as a viewer, and editing last night made it seem like you guys were really close to the pit stop per se with Michelle and Sean. Do you know how close you were? Was it as close as it maybe seemed watching at
Yeah,
home?
so we saw them at the face painting. And when they had left, I was like still doing his makeup, but I was like, okay, we see a team. Like, and I didn't realize until last night's episode how lost they got, like getting up to that final pit stop. And we think we were maybe 10
I
minutes
think
behind
Sean had
them.
said you guys only came up 10 minutes behind us.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and it would have been rough going. And I mean, I might have been able to squeeze in another leg, but we were pretty gassed at that
And
point.
and that was another instance where we had left the face painting, gone like a block or two, gotten directions, and then made it direct to the Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor's house. So that was another instance where we were straight on the path of like accurate directions, but we were just a little bit slower and obviously behind the other teams. And then also you see like we leave an hour and 35 minutes after the first team leaves for that second pit stop. And so I'm like proud of ourselves for even getting to that clue box like before the other teams. Granted, they got lost. But given we had left that far behind, I feel like we did our best and that's all we could have asked for.
Yeah, no, great group of people. And, Vinny and Amber were right on our tail.
Mhm. Great
It was
athletes
good
too. So
athletes. I mean, just a really
Yeah.
great people.
Yeah, this is a really fun cast this season. They definitely did a
Nice
good job
cast. It's
casting
nice
go.
people. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
there's some villain stuff that we don't know about that'll come up, but they're pretty nice group of people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, Chris and Mary, I ask every single team I interview, would you guys return to the race if it was ever offered?
Yes.
Absolutely. And if my goal, if I think Mary needs a redemption season, I would not be insulted if she picks a younger partner. I think I'm proud of myself for doing it, but I'm about twice as old as a lot of the contestants. I would be sitting on my couch watching Mary, maybe with Anna Lee.
Well, my dad actually said to Phil, he was like, "Why don't you pair Mary up with Linton and
Yeah.
like have a redemption season for the two
Phil
of
went,
them,
There
and then
you
we could
go.
be like a father-daughter team, but not actually father-daughter." So
So
Linton,
after,
if you
yeah,
want
I
to do it,
mean, to have this chance of a lifetime, of course I would take. I don't know that I'm in the running for that, but I would maybe marry.
I
So
would love to. I think that's one thing that didn't come through on the show is that like I have a very competitive spirit, and yes, I'm very nice and bubbly and whatever, but like I like to push myself with my running and my athleticism and in my professional life, and I'm a go-getter, and so
they want to do a
um
senior edition, I
yeah.
think.
So I feel like that didn't come through for me, but yeah, 100% I
Sure.
would again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and the competitiveness may not come through, but I will say one thing that was really nice to see, especially as like a parent-child relationship on the show. It was very obvious from a viewer perspective, you guys do have a very healthy, strong relationship, and I love seeing that because often we see, not to call out Lynette and Sharik, but we see a lot of these teams where it's very volatile parent-child relationships, and so it was just fun to see
I
you
was
guys
very
are still
fortunate
enjoying each other.
to have Mary, gently pushing me along without
Yeah,
being. I mean, she's perfect for
And
me.
I yeah, and I think our relationship thrives on being supportive and that kind of like language and communication, whereas like other teams do thrive on having a more like
sure.
cutthroat,
Yeah.
like and that works for some people, but for us, when we're understanding and supportive and gentle, I think that that works better for us. But my dad has raised a very strong woman, and I will tell it like it is and give it to him when he has to have it. And so, it's not all roses all the time, but I think, he doesn't ever want me to be walked on. And I'm like, that includes you.
Well, I know
So
we've got a little bit of flack because Mary's had said, "Oh, we're in a one-bedroom apartment. We do have separate bedrooms.
yeah, we don't have bunk beds.
We've made the living room into a bedroom, but we are in a little bit of tight quarters, so we have to get along or big trouble."
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris, Mary, as I said, it was so lovely watching you guys on this
Thank
season of
you.
the Amazing Race. Best of luck to whatever's next to you. Maybe we'll see you on a senior edition. Maybe we'll see you back with Lyndon, Mary. So many good things ahead. Thank you guys so
I'm
much.
thinking maybe another network, a Golden Bachelor. Just kidding.
Oh, there you go. Hot take. Who knows?